Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the beginning of the week, fundamental and technical analysis. Before I jump into the analysis, let me give a quick disclaimer. This is not financial advice. Anything that I share during this analysis is for educational purposes only. I repeat, this is not financial advice. Anything that I share during this analysis is for educational purposes only. Cool beans, cool beans. All right. Well, looking back over the pre-week analysis from yesterday, I told you guys that I am bearish the dollar this week. Um, these were my three levels that I'm looking for the dollar to sell off of. First is the current PD array levels that price is currently at. My second sell position would be within this daily volume imbalance. Preferably from the consequent encroachment of that daily volume imbalance. And my last line of defense to short from would be this inverted daily fair value gap that we see here, right? If price was to push up through all three of these areas of interest, right? Then I would want to see price push back up into last week's daily PD arrays. And then I would decide I would let price show me what it wants to do from these levels, right? Whether we break through those levels aggressively or whether we start to see smart money reversals off of these levels, right? But for now, my bias for Dixie for the week still stands. I want to see us sell lower, and this is my point of interest where I want to see the dollar sell down to is this weekly fair value gap here, right? And if I go to the weekly time frame so you can see it, this weekly fair value gap here. Cool beans? Cool beans. So with that being said, I told you guys yesterday that I was bearish Dixie. So you know that I'm bullish currencies off of these daily discount PD arrays that prices was at yesterday, right? Today we pushed up off of that 79%, broke above the 62, closed above it. I expect price to continue higher. I would like to see us run up into the premium array of Friday's candle, right? I would like to see us run up into there. And I would like to see us push through those levels aggressively, right? So if you throw that right, boom, boom, not gonna label them because I'm just giving you guys an idea of where I want to see price go. But I would like to see us run through those levels, right? I don't want to see price show any unwillingness to break through those levels. So I like to see us run straight through those levels like that, come back down, find support on those levels, and continue higher, right? That is exactly what I want to see out of Euro USD as well as the pound. I expect us to run up into Friday's premium PD array levels, run through those levels, come back down, retest those levels, and continue higher. And with NZD USD, I don't expect us to yeah, I expect us to keep pushing higher, right? I would like to see us run that weekly buy side liquidity, break above it and close above it, right? And then come back down retest it and continue higher. So um, something like this for NZD USD. Cool beans, cool beans, and you know my point of interest for NZD USD is these fairly equal highs that we see right here. These highs that we see right, boom, boom. Those highs. I want to see us reach above those highs, reaching into this sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency, as coined by Michael Huddles. So that's what I'm expecting out of currencies. Pretty much, um, still staying in line with the pre-week analysis, right? Um, looking at futures, I told you guys that I was bullish futures on the pre-week analysis, right? Told you that I wanted to see us run the weekly buy side liquidity, right? And come down, treat that weekly buy side liquidity as support to continue higher. Um, Now today was a bullish day for us as expected. So I will allow for price to pull back down within the discount PD array level of today's price range before continuing higher. So throughout the rest of Asian markets tonight and London markets, I'm interested to see if price pulls back down into the discount levels of this candle before continuing higher. If we break above that weekly buy side liquidity and close above it, then I will be looking for us to pull back down and use that level as a support level to continue higher. But my bias do remains bullish for futures um, going into this week. Right. Same thing with NQ. Um, I would like to see price pull back down into the discount levels of today's price range and continue higher. Easy peasy, right? Yep. Just throwing these discount levels on here for y'all. There we go. There we go. Let's pull that down. Continue high. Now, if we pull back down and break through those levels, right, then I would look for price to give us something like this. You continue lower to come back down into these daily PD arrays and possibly the weekly discount PD array. So that's what I'm expecting out of futures. That will pretty much wrap up the beginning of the week technical analysis. Like I said, everything still staying in line with the pre-week analysis. If you didn't check the pre-week analysis out, go to the YouTube channel and check it out. I posted it last night. So it's there for your reviewing pleasure. And yeah, that'll pretty much conclude the beginning of the week technical analysis. At this time, I'll pass it over to Carmen so she can give us that fundamental sauce. It's all yours, Carmen.
All right. Hi, everybody. So let's see here. I'm kind of excited because I'm actually in front of the computer for a class. Man, it's like the last week of class I hadn't been able to actually be in front of the computer. So it's good because I had a couple of things I wanted to share. Um, well, I'll put it like this. I had a couple of things at the time I was going to share. However, Um, I am going to share it, but there's a stipulation to me sharing it. You have to be in class, like live class. Um, because what I'm sharing is something that took me a long time to create and put together, and it's kind of near and dear to me. So anyway, I'm going to go through the Forex Factory calendar. We're going to kind of wrap live things up, and then those who are in live class, and it'll be one of those things where if you're in live class from now until, I don't know, let's just say the end of the year for now. You can pick my brain, you can ask me questions, we can plug and play, um, do that sort of thing. So let's just go ahead and get started. So with the Forex Factory calendar, I'm going to share my screen so that you can see it. All right. So this week in the Forex Factory calendar, we are gearing up to head into Christmas, head into the end of the year. And then with heading into the end of the year, obviously, now is that time to kind of tidy things up. So this is also, when I say you, I'm talking about you as the individual, but then we're also thinking along the same lines for businesses, because remember, you're always supposed to be operating your household kind of like a business. Keeping track of your income, what you're spending, how you're spending things, where your money's going, how you're allocating money, all those sorts of things. So now is that time of the year where not only you, but businesses are taking into account um, things they may have lost money on, things they're kind of ready to get rid of, um, carrying over, how they might carry over losses either next year or let it pile up as a collective and then write it off, not this coming April, but the next April, so that you kind of have a lump sum of things, kind of assessing your whole tax situation. But also now is that time of the year where you might hear people talking about a Christmas rally or the Santa Claus rally going into Christmas. But there are a couple of things in the market right now that kind of threw a wrench in a lot of companies' plans. Um, Adobe backed out of a deal. Um, a Chinese steel company bought US Steel. Um, Apple's having some issues with their smartwatch over some um, IP issues. So a lot of those things the market is kind of taking into account. But at the same time, the markets are also pretty resilient right now, which is good to see. Um, so tonight at some point in time, we will have Japan coming out with their monetary policy news. Remember, within an hour or so of it happening, they will post a time, so you will be able to see that. Um, so we will look at that news on Wednesday. Tomorrow, the biggest thing that we have coming out is Canada. They have their CPI news. So this isn't necessarily something that's going to affect us directly unless you trade a Canadian pair, but indirectly because of just the Canadian economic situation. We're always wanting to pay attention to our allies' economic situations because that could impact how we do business with them, how they do business with us, the cost of things that are coming out of that country that we have to pay for. So we'll be paying attention to that. Building permit news, and then um, a couple of speakers from the FOMC will be speaking tomorrow. So building permits, the biggest thing with building permits is just watching to see if we have more of them, seeing the areas, also seeing if These permits are allocated more towards like commercial space or residential spaces. We'll see these being allocated either towards hedge funds, towards large construction companies, or construction companies that are strictly for building certain types of construction. So there are companies out there that only do commercial. Then you have like the subdivision type companies that only do residential housing. So we'll look at that. And some of similar news coming out from the New Zealand dollar. So NZD USD is a pair we look at. So this news tomorrow afternoon will be something to pay attention to. And China has news coming out, but we'll talk about that on Wednesday. Wednesday, we actually have some news coming out for GBP out of the UK for CPI as well. So that'll be something for us to pay attention to. But the biggest thing Wednesday will be our consumer confidence news. So last confidence number coming out of 2023. And this is going to really help us to understand how the consumer actually feels about the future. So the hope is that consumers are more positive about how the future is going to be. Hopefully, because the Fed did start early, not this past meeting, but the meetings prior, and then just little speeches here and there, which is why those are important, stating that they may not have to raise rates again in December, and then they may actually start considering to cut rates. So because that has already been floated out there, there is a potential for this confidence news to actually be good. And then also the fact that when consumers are looking at their spending prices in the stores, they're not seeing prices all over the place anymore. And then also oil prices haven't been as high. We'll talk about that later on, but that's a psychological thing. I think I brought it up about 3 classes ago, but overall, if you look at it across a year, yes, gasoline prices matter when you start to cumulatively over the course of a year look at how much you spend. But from point A to point B, um, if you look and you think, oh man, gas was 289 yesterday and now it's 309, the price that and difference that the average person is going to pay in immediately, like in the immediate term being like the current week to maybe month to 6 weeks, isn't going to be that much more. People tend to spend more money for food than they would actually putting gas in their car, but the food increase is also a direct result of the increase in gas prices. So the being upset at the gas price shouldn't necessarily be directed at you having to put gas in your car, but all the other things that are going to increase in price because that gas price went up: food, groceries, items in your store, delivery, etc. All right. So anyway, confidence. All that ties into consumer confidence. We're going to be looking at that um on Wednesday night's class. Existing home sales. So we've talked about real estate, we've talked about rates, we've talked about those kind of things. So there are still those people who have, and I think we're on the tail end of it now, that have kind of FOMO'd into buying a house now. But if you have the FMOC saying we could potentially cut rates, and I say potentially because they say, yeah, we'll cut rates, and then they won't. And it's always a possibility that anything in the first quarter could change that. So potentially, you have the FMOC saying that they would potentially change or drop rates. I wouldn't want to buy a house right now, because if you buy a house now and you get an 8% interest rate, and then the Fed drops the rate, nice. You could have waited 3 months. Yeah, that house might not have been on the market, but you probably could have gotten something comparable and have gotten a lower interest rate on it, and then in turn saved yourself thousands in interest over the course of the mortgage. But anyway, existing home sales. So we'll be looking at these are sales that are like currently in contract. So you have a buyer and a seller who have both reached out to an agent, and those agents are working together. There's been paperwork drawn up towards a sale. Also, this could be institutions buying and selling as well. So some of the um, financial institutions are trying to get real estate off of their books, and you have other ones that are trying to put real estate on their books, kind of hedge a couple of not so wise decisions that were made. So that will show up as well. It might not necessarily say whether they were institutional purchases or not. We will see when the report comes out. On Thursday, we have final GDP quarter over quarter. So this is the last GDP number of the year. Unemployment claims, the price index quarter over quarter for the GDP. And then we also have Philly Fed manufacturing coming out on Thursday. And then Friday is kind of like one of those, I like to call it like a mixed bag day, because it's several different areas across the world that have news coming out that is a strong news item for their country or their economy and their currency. So retail sales for the UK. Canada has their last GDP number coming out. We have our last personal consumption expenditure number coming out for this year. So this number that's coming out here is going to go towards helping the Fed to decide about rates for next year. Durable good orders. These are important. I know I haven't talked about it in a while, but durable good orders are important because these are items that are supposed to last a long time. And so whenever you have an economy where you're trying to dry up money, people tend to hold on to these items a lot longer, because durable good orders or these items that fall into that category tend to be more expensive. So people tend to hold on to them longer. They tend to make do. They tend to go and get things fixed more than replacing them. So over time, it might not be it might not be this current forecasting that's coming out Friday. Maybe January or February, I expect that durable good orders are going to slow down. If they slow down now, it means that people didn't buy them a lot for Black Friday going into the holiday season. It could be that we get a larger account for these in January as well to account for the holiday season. So possibly February. Just seeing these orders slow down to just go into the last part of winter, into the early part of the spring, before you get like your next big major holiday that retailers tend to roll sales into. And then we have consumer sentiment, how consumers feel about things currently. And this is a number that comes from the University of Michigan. So this is a revised number that we will get. And anyway, we'll definitely pay attention to all the news coming out this week, because these are numbers that help gear the Fed up for their meeting, or the next major meeting in the first part of next year. So I'm done with the Forex Factory calendar, but I did want to just reiterate a couple of things I started out with. US Steel is one of those companies I did mention to you guys a couple of weeks ago in regards to my thoughts for companies to buy, sectors and industries to get into. Um, and it's kind of nice. There's a Japanese company, so Nippon Steel, is the company that bought US Steel. Um, so, um, we'll definitely look forward to seeing how that partnership works out. Um, Apple, so for those of you who do trade futures, hopefully you do know which um index funds or which index groupings Apple falls into so that you can pay attention to it. Um, and I'm not saying that any of the index or any of the indices will fall because of Apple's news, because it's only pertained to Apple right now, or it's only contained to Apple right now. But if you are an Apple shareholder, if you've thought about buying Apple, if Apple is one of your things, it's definitely a time to kind of pause and just kind of see what will happen, because not only do you have Apple being accused and sued over IP, intellectual property dispute, over censoring their watch, Apple has already stopped importing because they can't sell two of the watches, at least two of them, in the US anymore because of it. So if you want the watches that have like the oxygen sensor, you have to get them outside of the US. So now you have the current administration just trying to work on getting some of those rulings reversed, rolled back, paused, so that Apple can still bring in watches in the interim. But then Apple's also suing this company literally for trademark and IP violations because of their watch, like the shape of it, the look, where the buttons are, so on and so forth. So this is one of those things that's a back and forth. If you know Apple, you follow Apple, you know that their wearables and the phones, like the sales have been increasing steadily over the years. This is going to actually put a dent into their watch or wearable sales. How much, don't know, but we're going into holiday season. We've been in the holiday season, but Christmas season, for those people who didn't buy gifts, we're looking for a last minute gift. Also, this is the time of the year where you have a lot of companies putting their last year models on sale, getting ready to phase out a model. So remember, Apple, we're on like 15 now. So 15, 14, 13, phasing out 12, those sorts of things. So anyway, just things to keep in mind, pay attention to. So if you trade an indice and or index and you're looking at it and you're like, man, wait, it's trading really funny, you should go look and see how much of it is weighted towards Apple. So then you know if Apple's dropping because of this news, then okay, that's the reason why. Then you have to make a decision. Do I get more? Do I wait? But you need to know those things before you get in. And if you're already in, you need to make a decision now about what you're going to do. Um, so that's that. I'm done with the fundamentals for the recorded class. And yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Cool beans, cool beans. Well, that will conclude the beginning of the week fundamental and technical analysis for the recorded side. As always, I appreciate everybody coming in, tuning in tonight. If these reviews, if these classes are adding any value to your trading journey and career, please feel free to like, share, and most of all, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really helps out a lot. If you're interested in joining the private Telegram group, visit precisionpipsllc.com and register for the silver package. You can visit from desktop or mobile application now. Both versions are operating well and fine. So cool beans. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys coming out, tuning in tonight, getting this knowledge and empowering yourselves. Let your family and friends know you love them while they still here, please. And as always, peace and love, everybody. You know